Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today on ATLAS.ti 22 for Mac. So today we're going to be taking a look at this newest version of ATLAS.ti that we just launched. It's version 22 for the year 2022. And my name is Ivana Radovojevic, and I'm very happy to be here with all of you today to provide this global overview of ATLAS.ti for Mac so that we can see how the software looks and how it works. And I'm also happy to point out where we have some new features now in version 22 of ATLAS.ti. Now, I've also put up our contact information here, and I invite everyone to take a note. In case you ever have any questions that come up, you can always count on our support. You can always send us an email by writing to training@ATLAS.ti.com, or you can also give us a call. And on our website, you can see all of the telephone numbers from all our international offices. In addition to this, we'll also see soon enough that inside of ATLAS.ti, we also have a live chat feature. And so then you can directly chat with us right there from the software. So definitely, if any questions ever come up, don't hesitate to reach out. We're here and we're always happy to help. Now, I'd like to begin by saying, what is ATLAS.ti? Just so that we're all starting on the same page here. And well, what we're looking at here is a computer-assisted qualitative data analysis software. In other words, ATLAS.ti is a tool that we as researchers can use to facilitate our analysis of any kind of unstructured or non-numerical data, so any kind of qualitative data. And we say that it's a tool that facilitates because ATLAS.ti won't do the entire analysis for us. It's still us, the researchers, analyzing the data, but the software certainly helps, and it's a really powerful ally that will accompany us throughout the entire research process and also help us carry out a study that's more organized, transparent, and integrated. Now, ATLAS.ti is also a great tool if you're collaborating with others, because we can have different people working on the same project. We can also combine qualitative and quantitative analyses. And of course, we can analyze a great variety of types of data. So it might be text data like transcripts from interviews, but you can also analyze images, audio recordings, videos, geographic data. You can import articles from your preferred bibliographic reference manager, import survey data, tweets from Twitter, and we can even import social media comments. And so this is something that's new in version 22, that we can import any comments that were left on any social media post, and that's across platforms like YouTube or Instagram, and then you can also analyze what people are commenting on different things. So we can analyze just about any kind of qualitative data in ATLAS.ti, and we can put all these different kinds of data into the same project so that we can analyze the overarching patterns and trends. And so today, as we said, we're on version 22 of ATLAS.ti, but this software has been around since 1989 when it was first developed. And so it's certainly gone through a lot of changes since then. And so today we have a very powerful software that we're excited to share with you. But it's also good to know that when you get a license for ATLAS.ti Mac, you will also have access to all of the ATLAS.ti platforms. And so if you also have a Windows computer, you could use ATLAS.ti there. And you could also use ATLAS.ti Web, and this is the fully online version of the software. And so this is something unique with ATLAS.ti, that it's always one license that gives you access to everything. And so you can choose where you prefer to work. And then, of course, you can also move your project across these different platforms. And in particular, with Windows and Mac, we have 100% compatibility. So you can always go back and forth there. Now, we also have an ATLAS.ti app for tablets. And this is something that we always offer for free, whether or not you have a license. And so it's like a lighter version of ATLAS.ti. But if you have an Android tablet or an iPad, you can download the ATLAS.ti app there. And then this can be really helpful if maybe you're out in the field collecting data and you want to already get your project started there. And then, of course, you can move from the tablet into one of the other versions here. And so a little bit more about our licenses. As we said, with one license, you'll get access to Windows, Mac, and web. And also, it's great to know that all of our licenses always include full functionality. And so what we mean by this is that it's a one-time purchase and you get the whole software. You don't have to pay extra to unlock other tools or features. Everything is included right there. Now, if you'd like to get started with ATLAS.ti today, then you can always start our free trial version. The free trial will also give you unlimited access to the software for 5 days. And these are 5 days that you actually enter and use ATLAS.ti, not 5 consecutive days. But so you get 5 days to use the software, and you can already start your project, try it out. And then once your 5 days have been used up, your project still stays saved. It won't suddenly disappear. So your project will still be there. And then later when you get a license, you can activate it and then continue working on that same project. So the free trial is a nice way to already get started in case you want to see it for yourself and you're anxious to try it out. And then when you go for a license, you'll see that we have different licenses there just for different roles that you might find yourself in, whether you're a professor or a student or working in a company. And all of our licenses come with a yearly subscription. And so we have different license types here. If it's just for you or for your team, feel free to reach out if you ever have any questions about this. But I did want to mention that if you're interested in only using ATLAS.ti Web, our online version, we do have a license that gives you just access to ATLAS.ti Web. And this one is a monthly subscription. So you'll see that when you look in the store, but just to point out, you have the monthly subscription for just web or a yearly subscription for all the platforms. Now, since all of you are here today and for attending our webinar here, we're also very happy to provide a 10% discount coupon that you can use for any ATLAS.ti desktop and web license. And so when you're in the shopping cart page, you can just enter in this discount coupon code. That's all capital letters, NKQ, and the number 10. And then you'll get 10% reduced as well, so please feel free to also take advantage of that. And then also on our website, I encourage everyone to explore the different learning resources that we have. For example, if you and your group of students or colleagues want to learn more about ATLAS.ti, you can request a free personalized online demonstration. Basically, you just need to let us know what it is about ATLAS.ti that you want to learn more about, and then we'll prepare a personalized presentation for you and your group on whatever day suits you best. And then if you want to learn ATLAS.ti in even more depth, you can always attend one of our premium trainings. We offer these online all year round, and so that's also a great way to learn more about ATLAS.ti. And then besides the trainings, you can also find the full manual. We have extensive documentation on our website and inside ATLAS.ti. We have a research blog where we regularly publish best practices articles and interviews with researchers and all sorts of things of interest like that. And then what I would particularly recommend are our video tutorials. And we have a lot of very short video tutorials that go into more detail on one specific feature of the software. So it's a great way to revise anything. And you can also find these on our website, also on our YouTube channel. And we also have the link in the software. And so then just to talk a little bit more about our courses, we have live online courses, and we also have self-paced online courses. Now, the live online courses we give a few times throughout the year, but the self-paced courses are really great because once you sign up, you get unlimited access to all of the course contents for 30 days. And this is something that we've launched in the past years, and especially since the pandemic, of course, this has certainly grown a lot. And we're really happy to see that we are consistently getting very good ratings and reviews. So people are really enjoying this way to learn. And we have self-paced courses on different topics. And then upon completing the course, you'll also get an official certificate from the ATLAS.ti Academy. And I also just wanted to point out that in case you are interested in one of our premium trainings, you can also use that same 10% discount coupon. And so if you enter NKQ10, you'll also see that you have 10% taken off. But all this being said as well, if you do ever have any questions or doubts about anything concerning ATLAS.ti, please count on our support. We're here and available through email, telephone, and live chat 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. And so then without any further ado, why don't we go ahead now and take a look at ATLAS.ti 22 for Mac. And so I have here opened a project where we've already done some analysis. And in this project, we're looking at the computer game Minecraft and what parents say about this game and if it's appropriate for children or not. And this sample project is something we created just to kind of showcase ATLAS.ti. And you can find this same project on our website. And so it's another learning resource we have there in case you ever want to download it and try it out yourself, for learning or just kind of playing around with the software. Certainly feel free to use any of our sample projects. And so when we open ATLAS.ti, we see here in this, when it's like a blank screen, we don't have anything else open right now. It gives us this nice summary information of our project. And then along the top, of course, as per usual, we have the menus with all the different options here. This is where we can find all the different options that we have in ATLAS.ti. But then here along the top of the main window, we also have sorts of shortcuts that we can use. And so you might also find yourself clicking here to use these buttons. Now here on the left-hand side, we have what we call the Project Explorer panel. And from this panel, we can see and directly access any part of our project. So this is somewhere where we'll spend a lot of time since we have access to all the different parts here. And then on the right-hand side, we have the inspector panel. And this panel will always show us more detailed information about whatever object we've just clicked on. So for example, we just opened the project, so it's showing us the name of the project. It gives us summary information about the contents. And down below, we can see we have a comment space. So in fact, every individual object in ATLAS.ti has its own comment space. So this is sort of like a sticky note where you can provide more details about this object in particular. And so in this case, we have the title of our project and we have a brief description of what our project is about. Now, on the other hand, and so what's also great with this inspector panel is that we can also edit any of this information, right? You know, we can click here and we always have that easily available. So that's also something very convenient that we have with ATLAS.ti Mac. But okay, now that we're a little bit oriented with the interface here, well, why don't we go ahead and take a look at what we have inside this project? So for example, the first thing that we can see here is that we have 49 documents. And we can open this up and see them. So then what is a document in ATLAS.ti? Well, documents refer to any source of information that we're going to be analyzing. So our documents are our data. And so we can have text data. Here, for example, we imported participants' responses to 2 open-ended questions. And so we can see what each person said, how they replied. But documents can also be videos or audio recordings. They can be images. They can be tweets from Twitter, social media comments. So any kind of data that we analyze will add to our project as a document. And so, for example, you have that here with this shortcut that you can add your documents when you click on the document icon and then bring the files into ATLAS.ti. And so once we have our data added, well, then how do we go about analyzing this? Well, when you're working with text data, you go through and read the text. And then anytime you come across anything that captures your attention, something that can maybe help you answer your research question, well, all you have to do is highlight that text. And now to save this highlighted segment, we can right-click on it or click with 2 fingers, depending on your Mac. And then we have some different options here. Now, if we just want to save the highlighted segment, we can simply create a quotation. And on the right-hand side, we see this blue vertical bar. And so this is showing us the size and location of a quotation in this document. So a quotation is simply any segment of data that we have selected and saved. And so we can go through and highlight text, save quotations. But on the other hand, perhaps as we're reading our text here, we want to also already start capturing our analysis of these quotations and maybe start organizing all these quotations. And so in that case, what we can also do is directly apply codes. And so when we click here, ATLAS.ti opens up the coding window. Now, what is a code? You know, what is it that we're doing here when we're applying codes? Well, a code can be simply a word or a short phrase that's describing something we're seeing in the data. We can make as many codes as we want. I mean, ultimately, it just depends on what it is that we're looking for, you know, what's relevant for our research question, because we can add as many codes as we would like. Perhaps a helpful way to think of codes is to think of them as tags that we're going to go attaching to all the quotations so that we can organize all this information. So with our coding window open here, we can create any code name that we would like. So for example, I can see here in this quotation, the participants talking about creating a calculator within the game. And so maybe I want to make a code for that, you know, about creating things inside the game. So you can type out any text that you would like. And then to save the code, we can click on the plus button or just press enter on your keyboard. Now let's take a look. We now have the quotation and we have this code attached to it. So we can highlight any text and then go to apply codes. We can enter any code name that we would like, but also as we start typing, if we do have any codes already created that match what we're typing, then ATLAS.ti also shows that. And so it's also very easy to attach any codes that we already created, right? So we can see the full list here. And then if we want to add any of them, we can also just click on the plus button. And we have these added too. We can also see all of the codes in our project here on the left-hand side. So we can open them up and see them. And in this case, we've already organized these codes and we've put a hierarchical structure in them. And so, for example, throughout this data, participants talked about benefits and downsides of this game. And then we can open up this list to see all the subcodes, all the specific benefits and specific downsides. So we can see all the codes here. And this is also really comfortable because as we go through highlighting text, if we want to add a code that we've already created, we can also simply drag and drop the code from the left-hand side. And then ATLAS.ti saves the quotation and attaches that code. Another really interesting feature, as we're coding, maybe we're just looking at our category level codes. And then I see here it's talking about some benefits. So if we just drag this category code, then we can choose which specific kind of benefit it is. And then ATLAS.ti attaches that code. So these are some of the ways we can go about coding our text data here. And this is certainly a really important part of the analysis. This is really how we start to condense all this rich qualitative information. And this coding structure that we can put in now to make category codes and subcodes, this is also something new with version 22. So this is also very exciting that now we can put this hierarchy in and it makes it a lot easier to keep everything organized and as we go through coding the data. Now, when you start, you'll probably just begin by creating codes like I did here. You won't have this hierarchical structure right away, but I'll show that as well in just a few minutes of how you can create that yourself. And so we see that it's quite straightforward to code the data to attach these tags to our quotations. But there's another equally important part of the analysis here. And that's that, well, as we're going through and reading our text data here, well, we also have a lot of ideas going through our minds, right? So maybe what the participant's saying here reminds us of something another participant said or something we read in the literature. And well, it's important to have a place where we can write down all of our thoughts and ideas, questions, or critical reflections. And well, this is exactly where memos come in. A memo is essentially a notebook. And we can create as many of these memos as we would like. And so we can also use these to take notes and to organize all our thoughts and to put down all our analyses. And so, for example, if this notion of building things in the game, I see this coming up a lot, it's something really important. And so I want to have a memo where I'll write down all my notes and thoughts about that. And so, of course, we can create a new memo. And it's just a blank space. It's an empty notebook. That just like any text writing program, right? We can structure it however we would like. But it is important to give a descriptive name to the memo. And another nice feature that we have here is that if you press Command D on your keyboard, ATLAS.ti will also automatically insert the date and time. And so then this is great to keep track of things. And then we can write our notes and reflections and critical analyses. And this is where we can really start to dig deeper into the data. And it's true that when we force ourselves to put our thoughts into words, it really helps us develop a much deeper understanding of what we have going on across our project. And so let's imagine that it was this quotation in particular that inspired our ideas that we wrote down in that memo. And well, before moving on with the rest of the data, we want to make sure that we'll remember that this memo was talking about this quotation, right? Well, just like we can associate codes with our quotations, we can also associate memos. And you'll do that in the exact same way as before. Just drag and drop the memo on top of the quotation, and you also have that linked. And so we can link all these different parts of our project. And then this is a huge help because later we can explore all these links, or we can very easily find, when we look at our notes about building things, what data do we have attached? And we can also tell ATLAS.ti to show us data attached to any code, or examine what codes appear together or compared across documents. So what I mean to say here is that, this part here, or coding the data and writing in memos, this is really the foundation of our analysis in ATLAS.ti. And if we do this part well, then everything else will certainly be a whole lot easier. And so now we've seen how we can analyze text data, but I do also want to show how we can analyze other kinds of data. And so if you're going to be working with videos or audio recordings, then you can also add your multimedia data into ATLAS.ti. And of course, we can watch it and listen to it from here. Minecraft. And so then we can see everything. And then we're going to apply the same logic here. We're going to be creating quotations and attaching codes and writing in memos. So then how do we create a quotation? How do we select a segment of the video? Well, we'll see here on the right-hand side, we have, again, that same panel showing our codes and quotations. And so to select a segment of a video or audio recording, you'll just look at the timeline that you have here next to the margin area. And then you can just click, drag, and drop. And then ATLAS.ti saves that quotation. We have that same blue vertical bar. And from here, you can right click to apply codes or drag and drop codes from the left-hand side, as well as our memos. And so then all the same things apply as we did before. But it's as simple as clicking, dragging, and dropping. Alternatively, you have the buttons down here to mark the start and stop points of your video and audio quotations. And so this is also great because then we can even code directly on our videos and audios. And if you are working with video data, and let's imagine you also want to analyze what's going on here in this frame, the visual aspects, well, then we also have a nice feature here that we can capture a snapshot. And so then basically ATLAS.ti takes a screenshot of what we have, and it's now added this as a new image in our project. So we have a new document, and this is now a static image. And so we can also code images in ATLAS.ti. And it's the same logic as always. We're just going to select a segment of the image. Just click, drag, and drop. And then this rectangle appears, and you can move around and resize. And then just like always, you can drag and drop your codes and memos from the left-hand side. So remember, we can create as many quotations as we would like. So you can really analyze your data in as much detail as you want. So now we know how we can analyze different kinds of data. And everything we've been doing up until now has been manual analysis. It's been us, the human researchers, going through and analyzing the data. But I did also want to point out that since we are here, using a computer software, there are also some tools that we can use to help kickstart our analysis or to perhaps complement the analysis that we're doing. And so if we go to the analysis menu up here, we can see a great variety of tools that we have with ATLAS.ti. So why don't we take a look at a few of these? I'm afraid we won't have time for everything. I encourage you to explore as well. But to give some advice, as a starting point, let's imagine we've added in our data here and we haven't yet read all the responses. So we don't know in detail what everyone's talking about. But before going into it all, I want to have a quick global overview just to understand what our participants are talking about here. In other words, I want to conduct a content analysis. So we can always easily do this by creating word lists or word clouds. And so with this tool, we can count word frequencies. So we open it up, and on the left-hand side, we tell ATLAS.ti which documents we want to look in. And we can select as many documents as we want. The only requirement is that they be text documents. And then immediately ATLAS.ti shows us all the words that appear, and it shows us how many times each one appears. And then we can always reorder this information. We can see what percentage it makes up of everything. And then down here, we have some more options. So we can continue working with this. Maybe you want to see how many times each word appears in each document. You can compare across them. And now at the moment, it's showing, of course, that the and a are the most frequently occurring words. But that's not really interesting for my content analysis. I'd rather have these articles and prepositions just directly ignored. And so, we can also easily do that by adding a stop list. And so we have that down here. And you can manage lists, you can edit, stop, and go list. We have lists in a lot of different languages that you can import. So, feel free to also check that out. But just to show now that I've put the English stop list, so now we don't have those words. It's ignoring articles and prepositions, and it's just showing us words of, actual interesting content. And then we can also export this, if we want to save these results in Excel. And we can also toggle between the list and the cloud view. And so now this is the same information, but in this really nice visual format. And then we can also export this as an image if we want to save this for a cloud. And so this is nice to get this quick global overview to understand what's coming up across our data. And we can even continue focusing in on more detail, and we can even focus on different parts of speech. So this is also something new in version 22, that you can choose which parts of speech you're interested in. Maybe I just want to see what adjectives participants used. And so then we can just put that, and then we can get a much more focused analysis. And this is great, especially if you want to really analyze how people are talking, or discourse, and kind of the structures of speech. And so we can select all these different parts, and you can also, of course, select more than one at a time. And so it's also a great way to explore your data. So word lists and word clouds are nice for getting that quick global overview. But let's imagine that we have a word that we're interested in. Maybe I want to see what participants said about being creative, or the need to be creative in this game. So if there's ever a word that you want to search for, or maybe it's a word we identified in the word cloud, but I have a particular word I want to identify across our documents, in that case, we can use the text search tool. So we open up the tool, and as always, we'll tell ATLAS.ti in which documents we want to look. And then we tell ATLAS.ti what words we want to look for. So we type it in here, and then ATLAS.ti will go through these documents, and every time it finds this word, it will automatically select a quotation, and it can associate codes for us. So it can find paragraphs that contain this word, or maybe I wanted to just highlight the sentence. Well, what's also great here is that we can add synonyms here. So maybe participants are talking about being creative, they just didn't use that word and use a different word. So we can add any synonyms we want to make sure we capture that. We can also add as many words as we would like, in case we want to look for multiple words in a sentence, or either of these words, right? So we can make whatever kind of search string that we would like here. And we can include inflected forms, so that ATLAS.ti gets the base of this word, the root, and then it'll also capture any variations of it. So like creative, but creativity as well. And so that, again, that's important to make sure we capture all the instances where this word is appearing. And so then we can go ahead and show the results. And so now ATLAS.ti is showing us across these few selected documents I have, well, creative appeared twice, and it's highlighted the sentence for us. Now we can even click up here and then attach a code. And so I already have a code about being creative. Oh, I see that was already attached even. Well, no problem. I can easily attach it again now. And then we have that code attached to all of these finds. And so that's text search, that we can look for any word that we're interested in. And then ATLAS.ti will show us where it appears across our documents. Now we have some other interesting search and code tools here. For example, we also have this named entity recognition tool. And so with this tool, as always, we'll select the documents. But now what ATLAS.ti will do is that it'll go by itself through our data here, and it'll search for any time a person, location, organization, or any other kind of entity is mentioned. So here in miscellaneous, this could be like books or works of art or political parties, any other kind of entity that comes up. And so it'll show us which entities it identified here. We can also correct the category in case we think it should be categorized differently. And then we can tick the boxes to tell ATLAS.ti, I want to see the results of these. And then again, it shows us each sentence where each of these entities appears. And we can add any code that we want, but also now with this tool, we can also apply codes that are being suggested by ATLAS.ti, right? Based on these entities, you can also create codes for that. So named entity recognition is great if you are interested in analyzing people, locations, organizations, or other things. It's a very quick and easy way to do that. On the other hand, maybe you're interested in analyzing how people are reacting to something or how they feel about something. And in that case, you could use the sentiment analysis tool. And so here ATLAS.ti will go by itself, and identify any time a positive, a negative, or neutral sentiment is being expressed. And then again, we can see all the results here, and we can either individually work with each one or just click up here to add the codes that we would like. And then ATLAS.ti will automatically attach all these codes to the fines. So again, a very quick and easy way to identify these kinds of things. And so it's a really nice way to complement our own analysis. And then maybe we'll see the sentiments or entities. And then we also have a brand new tool with ATLAS.ti version 22. It's also very exciting. Another great way to explore our data. And that's the concept search. So we'll tell ATLAS.ti which documents we want to look in. And now ATLAS.ti goes by itself through these documents here. And it identifies any concepts that are being mentioned. And so it's not just looking at every single word, but rather relevant nouns, relevant concepts that are coming up. And then what's great is that we can click on these concepts, and we can also see all the different sub-concepts or sort of variations on this. And so here we can see that people are talking about children, but it could be your child or a child's friends. And so we can also click on these to see the results. And on the right-hand side, ATLAS.ti shows us these quotations where we have these concepts appearing. Maybe we want to see what people are saying about YouTube. And is it about just YouTube or videos? And so this is also a great way to explore the data, and it allows us to get an even better understanding of what's coming up here, because it's also helping us, I suppose, interpret this a bit more. You know, we can see they're talking about world, but now we can see in what context this is coming up, describing it as a nearly limitless world or talking about the real world. And of course, this isn't all. We're not just here to click and see what's going on. We can also automatically code these. And so then we can attach a code to all of these fines to also save this. And so then again, we have up here to code with the concept word, and then ATLAS.ti attaches this code to all of those fines. And here as well, you can toggle between a list view or a cloud view. And so it's another great way to go about exploring our data here and to see what kind of concepts might be coming up. So we just saw a lot of different tools, right? Looking at word frequencies or searching for words or entities or sentiments or concepts. So I hope you enjoy these different ways to kind of explore the data. But another really helpful way to make sense of our qualitative data and what we have going on in our project is to also be able to visually display everything and explore what kinds of connections we might have coming across everything. So what I'd like to do now is create a network. So why don't we go ahead and create a brand new network here? And let's imagine I'm really interested in this, this whole notion of building things, the game. So I'm going to continue with that, and I'll give the network a descriptive name, of course. And now we have a blank network. But we can visualize any part of our project in a network. And so to add any objects in, we're just going to drag and drop them. So for example, we do have a code about building things. So I definitely want to bring that in here. And then I also know from our analysis that we've been doing that, building things in the game, it was related to positive evaluations as well as the mods and texture packs of the game. And I know that this was important both for single player as well as multiplayer games. And so we can add, as many codes as we would like here. Maybe now I can start sort of ordering these around to say, all right, so I know that building things was related to positive evaluations. So we can show these connections across our codes by linking them together. To do that, we'll click on the first code we want to start with, and this little circle appears in the corner. And we're going to click on that circle and drag and drop it to the code we want to associate it with. When we let go of the mouse, we can choose a name for this relationship. But I want to say building things contradicts positive evaluations? No. Fosters? Maybe. I would say that it's associated with. I think that's maybe the best description, right? So then we have that built here. So we click on the little circle and then drag and drop to the other code that we want to link it with. Now, in case we're not satisfied with any of the relation names that we have here, we can of course create any relation name that we want. Of course, all of this is fully customizable. So we can type in any relation name we'd like. We can even give them different colors. And we can also specify whether the relation should go in one direction or it should be a double-headed arrow, go in both directions. So then we also have that there. And so we can bring in the codes here and kind of start sketching out our maybe even our conceptual framework or the theoretical framework of our study and showing how the codes are related to one another. And if we click up here on the view button, we can also view more detailed information. So for example, you'll remember we talked about this comment space earlier. And like we said, every individual object has it. So we can also see what comments we wrote on codes. And so when it comes to writing code comments, we always like to use this space to put down the operational definition of each of our codes. So let me see, there we go. And in this case, we put a very long comment. But of course, we can also just resize this here, if I can just grab that. But this is a really helpful feature because we can see all of the definitions for our codes, right? So we can see exactly how these were analyzed and understood in this project. And then anyone who's looking at our network also can understand this information, right? This is all very important information. And so that's why it's good to have that there. And there we go, to make this a little bit more manageable here. And so on the one hand, we can view any comments that we wrote on these different objects. But we can also continue to explore what else we have connected here. So about building things, well, maybe I want to show some illustrative quotations to show what participants said about it, right? To show people the actual data that we have here. And so we can also right click on any of these codes and we can add any neighbors, anything else that's associated with this code that we've clicked on. And so then we can bring in these quotations and we can see all of them. We can also view the actual quotations, right? The full content and exactly what it was the participants said. When we have image quotations, we can also see that. We get a preview of our video quotations as well. So then we can always move this around and maybe we even decide to remove some of these from the network. Of course, we can also do that. We're just removing it from the network. We're not deleting anything from our project, but just to clean it up a bit. And we can draw connections across any part of the project, even quotations and quotations, and we can describe how different parts of the data are related to one another and what participants are saying or building on here. And remember, we can view any part of our project in the network. So we can also add that memo that we wrote. We can even show the notes that we have inside. And this, of course, can also be linked to anything here in our network. So networks are a great way to, put everything down on one page so that we can see what we have going on here and start to draw connections across everything. And by importing neighbors, we can also really easily see what else we have linked here. So we can explore any connections that are coming across our project and all this analysis we've been doing. And then also, of course, it's very important to also remember that networks are just a great way to convey information and what it is that we found in our analysis. We who are analyzing this data, we're very closely involved in it, we're really familiar with it. But for our audience and the readers of our research, or when we're presenting our research, they aren't as familiar. But networks are a great way to convey this information. And so this is also something great to include in final reports or presentations of our research. And so we can also create as many networks as we want. So I certainly encourage you to explore with them and get creative. It's also great to use them for planning and brainstorming. And so definitely you can, I hope you enjoy working with the networks as much as I do. And then finally, I wanted to show a few other tools that we have here that can also help us explore our data in different ways. And so we're going to take a look at these two tools here. And these tools come in handy once we have the data coded. And then once we've done that, we can use these tools to explore our codings in different ways. So why don't we start with the code Cooccurrence Table? So with this tool, we can show, or we can take a look at which codes might be appearing together in our data. And so all we do is we select the codes here on the left-hand side. And so maybe we want to look at just any benefit or downside. Maybe I want to see if they were mentioned together with any of the specific features of the game, right? So you can select either these higher level codes or the subcodes. And then ATLAS.ti shows us that this code appears together 5 times with this code. Or sorry, one of the codes in here appears together 5 times with one of these. And so what this means is that in 5 different instances in our project, we have these 2 codes either on the same quotation or they're in overlapping quotations. And if we click on this number, then we can see the data that's behind this number. So we can see where we have both of these appearing, where somebody was talking about benefits of the game, while at the same time mentioning the mods and texture packs. And then, well, unsurprisingly, we can see the downsides were mentioned together with the monsters and violence of the game. So this kind of analysis gives us this idea of what it is that participants were talking about. And what's great about this is that it can also even give us a space for serendipity, for something unexpected to come up from our analysis, because we're so involved in the details when we're coding, we're really close to the data. But then these tools help us take a step back to maybe also see if we have any patterns that are emerging, maybe things that we didn't even realize was happening while we were coding it. So here's another example where we can look at what kinds of descriptions of the game were given related to different benefits and downsides. And we can always see this data behind the numbers. ATLAS.ti always keeps us close to the data. And then we have the table here that we can export to Excel, right? If we want to save this table. But down below, we also have a bar chart showing this same information. And so for each code, then we can see, so for benefits or for downsides, we can see what other codes appear together. So it's another way to view this information. And this is also something new with ATLAS.ti 22, that we have these bar charts available throughout ATLAS.ti. And so it gives us more ways to understand what's going on in our project. And we also have a third option for looking at this data, and that's a Sankey diagram. So again, it's the exact same information, but in this wonderful visual format. And so we can see for each kind of description of the game, was it mentioned more with benefits or downsides? And so then, or what kinds of descriptions were given when talking about downsides of the game? And so this is a really quick and easy way to see what codes are appearing together. And then with the Sankey diagram, the thicker the lines, the higher this co-occurrence is. So it's all these different ways to explore. And so this can also help us get all sorts of different insights. And certainly these are also interesting kinds of outputs that we can include in final reports and presentations of the research. Now, another nice tool we have here is the code document table. So this is another table, but this time we're going to be crossing codes with documents. And then we can analyze code frequencies across any part of our project. So for example, maybe we want to compare, maybe I want to see how many times each specific benefit or downside was mentioned. So before we just selected the aggregate, but maybe now I'm more interested in the details. So we select whichever codes we want to look at. And now I could select all of our participants here, but actually I'm interested in directly comparing between parents who actually do play the game themselves and parents who don't. So we can also create groups to organize our documents, to organize our codes. And so groups are a great way to help filter our analyses. And so in this case, we had a group for those who play, those who don't, and now we can easily look at these here to compare between them. You could similarly have a group for male and female participants or of different ages or from different countries, whatever it is that you're interested in analyzing, then you can use groups to do that. So let's take a look at the table here. Well, it's showing us that this code appears 8 times in the documents in this group and 4 times in these. So in other words, it seems that parents who actually play the game themselves mentioned this benefit of building things 4 times, while parents who don't mention it 8 times. And again, click on any cell and then we can see the data behind these numbers. And so this gives us a really nice bird's eye view of where in our project we have the different codes appearing. And we can see how many times they're appearing. And then down below, we again have this bar chart. So showing us the same information, but in this nice visual format. And so of course, we can also give colors to our codes. And then we can also see this here. So it's also easy to see what benefits or downsides or which one had more. And we can also click around to explore it here. Now, at the moment, our code document table is showing us just the absolute frequencies, but sometimes we might be interested in comparing directly across these different groups. So I want to compare these numbers. And so if that were the case, then it would be problematic if we had different numbers of people in each group. We have a lot more data here than we do here. We have many more parents who don't play than parents who do. And that's fine. I mean, that's the reality, right? We don't always have a perfect number of participants. And of course, ATLAS.ti is here to help us. And so if we do want to directly compare these frequencies, we can click on options here, and we have many more options available for us. So if we want to directly compare these numbers, we can also normalize the counts. And in this case, ATLAS.ti does take into consideration the density of data that we have in each of these groups, and then adjust the numbers so that we can actually directly compare them. We can also look at relative frequencies. And this is perhaps even more helpful because now we can see, to look at building things, actually, this was equally mentioned by both groups. While on the other hand, collaboration was mentioned much more frequently by parents who do play the game themselves, while the educational benefit was mentioned much more by parents who don't play the game. So we can already notice some interesting patterns here. And this is, of course, a great moment to open up a memo, and then we can write down all of our thoughts and interpretations there. And then, of course, we can go through the data and see if our interpretations make sense or adjust them as needed. But certainly, this is a great way to explore our data, and it can really help us with coming to answers with some of our research questions as well. So it lets us very easily explore all of that. Now, all this being said, maybe you're not interested in all of these numbers, and maybe you just want to see whether or not a code appears. Well, in that case, you can binarize the table. And then ATLAS.ti simply shows yes or no that a code appears here. And so finally, just like we saw before, we have the table, we have the bar charts, and we also have the Sankey diagram, right? So then we can see that same information, but in this great visual format. So then you can decide which one you prefer, to help with your own analysis. If you want to include these in your final reports or presentations, then of course you have that available there. And so with that, then we've seen all of the main features of ATLAS.ti here, but there was one more thing, of course, that I need to show because we have this new in version 22, and that's about building our code structure here, this hierarchy. So I'll go ahead and work with that now, but I also wanted to point out that if anyone has any questions or comments, feel free to write in the chat here or the Q&A section. I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone might have. But otherwise, why don't we go ahead and take a look then at how we can organize our list of codes, right? Because as we mentioned at the beginning, when you start coding your data, you'll just, most likely you'll just be creating codes here as you see them. And of course, this is a great way to go about the analysis. This is inductive analysis, that we create codes based on what we see in the data. But then once we've created some codes, analyzed a few documents, it might be a good idea to take a look at this list of codes and organize it a bit. So to do that, we're going to open up the code manager. So in fact, every entity in ATLAS.ti has its own manager. In this case, we're working with code, so we'll open up the code manager. Now, what we can see here are all the codes in our project, and we also get some more detailed information on each one. For example, we have two numbers here that are showing us how many quotations we have attached to each code. And this is what we call groundedness. And then here we have density. And this tells us how many links any code has with any other codes in the project. And so if I open this up now, we can see here that this code isn't linked to other codes, but we did link some codes here. You'll remember we linked this when we made our network. And so that's where density is coming up. Well, groundedness is the number of quotations. And when we have, so we can see it for each subcode, but when we have this category code, this is the aggregate, right? So it's combining all of the quotations below. Now, we also have, we can see here which groups any code belongs to. So groups are simply another way to organize this. I briefly mentioned this before in the table, but you can use groups to organize things, and especially if you're going to want to filter your analyses in some way. If you want to compare and contrast or maybe you want to focus on only one particular group of codes, then you can use that. So maybe, for example, well, in fact, when we start organizing a list of codes, since we're going to have codes all around like this that we were just creating, maybe what we'll do is start going through the codes that we made and just selecting the ones that seem to be similar, right? So I say, okay, these are all talking about building different kinds of things. And so you can just select any codes you want to group together and then just drag and drop it to the left-hand side. Now we can give a name to this group. And so if we click on a group, ATLAS.ti applies a local filter. We only see codes in that group. If we click on the blank space, we go back to the full list. So you might make a group at first to kind of help sort of reduce the number of codes you're looking at a time, so then we can just focus on these that are kind of similar here. Now, to make a hierarchical structure, what we need to do is we need to have a category code. And any code can be a category code as long as it has 0 quotations. So in this case, these are all things we identified. Of course, we have quotations here. So a nice and easy way to make a category code is to just create a new blank code. And then maybe, for example, we like to write category names in capital letters to make it stand out even more. So then I'll create this for building things. I'm also gonna bring that into the group here. And let's go back here. So now we can put these as subcodes to our category code. And you'll do that just by dragging and dropping the code onto the other one. And then we'll use this first option here. Add this code to that one. And there we have it. So we just drag and drop the code onto an empty code, a code with no quotations. And we can do this with multiple codes at a time. And that's how we make subcodes and category codes. And so we can also, of course, change the color. You can see all that here on the right-hand side. So then we can go through and organize things. We can write comments down here to write the operational definitions of our codes. And then also, as you may have noticed, we also have a bar chart here. And so in this case, this bar chart, actually I'll unselect it. It's what it's showing us is all of these different columns is one document, and then we can see what codes appear in each document. And so here it's really helpful as well when you start putting colors on them, so then you can also easily see which codes appear. And if we click on some codes, then it only shows us the code distribution of those. And so then we can see some participants only talked about downsides, others only about benefits. And so it's just yet another way to explore and understand our data and what we have going on here. So this is also something new with version 22. And so I hope that you all enjoy the new version here. And also most importantly, I hope that you do find ATLAS.ti a helpful and powerful tool for your qualitative analysis. And now you know how you can add in your data to your project, your documents, and then go through and select segments of data, attach codes, write in memos. You can use the different analysis tools in case you want to automatically search and code for different things or look at word frequencies. You can build networks to display the different parts of your project visually and draw connections across them. And then you can also use all these other analysis tools to explore your data in different ways. And so this, of course, is just a quick overview. But I will put again here our contact details, in case you have ever any questions that come up at any point in the future, feel free to reach out to us. And I nearly forgot, you're free to send us an email or give us a call, of course, but also you'll see up here, you have this support button. And so then you can open up the live chat with us. And so of course, feel free to use this here and also just send us any questions you have. And you can also search for any articles that we have here and any documentation. So feel free to use this support option. This is also something new in version 22. So we're very excited to be able to provide this kind of support with everyone. And under the help menu, you can also see, for our video tutorials or more documentation, we have that here as well. But certainly feel free to reach out and we'll always be happy to help. And so then if there aren't any other questions, I'm happy to then just take these last few minutes to also show where you can find more information about ATLAS.ti. And here I am on our website. And so you'll see right from our homepage, you can start the free trial version. So if you want to already get started with ATLAS.ti today, then this is definitely the place to start. And so you can try that out on your computer. But besides the license, here in the Learning tab, you have all these different resources that you can explore. And so in case you ever want to attend another one of our free webinars in the future, we'd be more than happy to see you again. You can also request one of those free personalized demonstrations. And we have webinars on all sorts of other topics as well, so feel free as well to check these out and to, different kinds of applications of ATLAS.ti are focusing on different topics. And then under premium training, you can see all of our premium courses. And so here you have our live online courses. So here we have on ATLAS.ti for Mac, for example. And then down below, you can also see our self-paced courses. And so upon completing any of these premium courses, you'll also get that official ATLAS.ti certificate. And then also the video tutorials, the quick tour or the full manual. Down here, you can also access the sample projects, the research blog, so feel free to explore all these different resources that we have here. And then you can see the licenses. We click on pricing and buy, in case you want to get your own license. And then remember, you have that 10% discount coupon that you can use for any license or for any course as well, for any of our premium trainings. So feel free to take advantage. And of course, reach out if any questions do ever come up. No, thank you, everyone. Thanks, and Ty Ullman for the comment. I'm glad to hear you enjoyed it. And yeah, so thank you, everyone, for your time and interest. I hope that this was helpful. And then, feel free to reach out if any other questions come up at any point in the future. But other than that, I just want to wish you all a great rest of the day and all the best in your qualitative data analysis journeys. So take care, everyone, and goodbye.